gentlemen, welcome to track B of this year's Agile Austria Conference in Graz. My name is Roman Krivets. I am a product owner at Agile Software GmbH, regularly at least. Today I'm your host for this track. I'd like to welcome our speakers for this session, Michael Rumpler, Mike.
Hello.
And Hannes Kieberger. Hello.
Hi. Hello.
Both have long years expertise gathered in several fields of software engineering, leadership, and agile consulting. And today I'm proud to present to them both in their topic of, does a team of agile coaches need leadership or not? We're curious to hear your story. So I hand over to you guys.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. So I have the pleasure to start. Good afternoon from my side. I'm Hannes, and this is Mike, my continued co-speaker. Let's just do a quick sound check because we cannot use the speakers because of the other room. It would be too loud, but we have to use the mic for the audience at home. Can you guys in the back hear us fine? Louder? Okay, so I'll try to be, so here's a good volume and a good, from his voice.
Volume is fine,
Obviously.
voice we'll see.
I try to keep up with this, but please, if I start getting too low, just let me know and I'll try to speak a little bit louder. All right, so our title has to do with Agile Coaches, but it has to do with, most of all, with our experience. You could also call it, I think, organizational design and enablement from the trenches. So this is solely based on our experience. We are not citing books and stuff like this. We will bring some definitions and concepts, but just a little bit as a backdrop. And then mostly share what we have experienced over time and what we have found as maybe more or less meaningful. But let's start with a quick thought experiment. So imagine you work like you in a large, maybe even multinational corporation, and the corporate leadership decides to have the organization embark on a transformational journey. Probably sounds familiar to most of us. But that's not all. So they come to you and ask you to lead that transformation. After you regain consciousness, because that's a big blow, you start thinking, and your head starts spinning, and you think. This is why I ask you, so what's your first thought if you're being told you have to transform a large organization? Is the management ready? Do we get the support from management, right?
Is the organization ready for a change?
Yeah, is the whole organization as such ready for a change? Or do they even understand maybe the urgency for change? What else?
Really important. Do they want the agile tomorrow?
Exactly. Yeah. Where is the project plan?
The entire organization agile or something?
Yeah. Exactly. What does it mean? So, and we could go on, and basically there's a gazillion questions you could ask yourself. And obviously your head starts spinning because you're now responsible. And at one point you come to the question, like, what capabilities do we need? How do we go about this? And who do we need? Do we have the people in the organization? Do we need others? And you ask yourself, well, maybe let's build a team of agile coaches. That could be something that works. And those are typical questions that Mike and I deal with, and just trying to find out what the right point is. We'll figure this out eventually. This always works. No. So I continue talking, Mike.
I will try to fix this.
Thank you very much. All right, so basically, there's many different fields and many different aspects and considerations. We want to take you to two corners of our inner world, if you will, today. One is what I call contextualizing and localizing. It's basically understanding this whole organizational construct. So, like, what is the organization? Like building a mental map and a mental model for it, and really trying to understand, like, what are the places, maybe finding places that are more ready, finding places that could be maybe left to a later stage, and then localizing. So let's say if we build or need a team of coaches or a change team or some enablement team, where in the organization would that be best placed? And there's many different options for this, and there's many different considerations that have to do with corporate politics, with power, with networks, with knowledge, right? So this is not straightforward. And the second question is basically, what type of leadership do we need? But not so much in the sense of like, I am as a coach, what leadership do I need from you as a leader? It's more like on an organizational level. What type of enablement do we need? How do we empower this team? How do we make sure they can do their job? And then, yes, how can they develop and how can they sustain? But still, it's like this, let's call it distributed leadership and enablement, so they can actually be as impactful as possible. Yeah. So basically, why Agile Coaches? So there's one reason is Mike and I, we're both practicing as coaches. So we kind of have the inside view. We also happen to be leaders for coaches. So I in my organization and you at Rewe. And thirdly, we happen to work on large organizational transformations. And then we came across Cem Cheli, who's like also a fellow coach and Agile expert, but I mean, same thing, different level, maybe different focus. And we found this a quote that really resonated with us. And he basically said, like, the most challenging Agile team I've ever worked with is not developers. It's also not the managers, but it is, yes, it is a team of Agile coaches. And I think I can subscribe to this in a way. There's something about facilitating a team of facilitators, or training a team of trainers, or mentoring a team of mentors, or helping a team of change agents to change. So that's not, being a coach of coaches. You could talk about this more like being a meta coach in a way. So we figured out if this works for coaches, we can make this work for any other type of, however you call it, right? We don't know yet. So team, community, circle, cell, enabling team, facilitating crew, unfixed. So there's all the different, we have different answers and names, but we don't quite know what it is yet, but we know we need something. And this something, we would just say, the initial urge is to call it a team, right? We need a team of coaches. It's so simple, right? But does it really have to be a team? Could it be a community, maybe? So maybe if we have a grassroots campaign, it starts with a community. So who knows? And if we have a team, does it have to be a centralized team? So most of the time, in most organizations, in most transformations, you will find a centralized team. That is somewhere in the org chart, right? We need steel boxes. That's just the way it is. We need to put them in a box. But it could also be distributed, right? If you look at Spotify, they started with this, they still have it. They added some governance and other structure, but they still have a distributed team of coaches. But this is a possibility. Or even if you take this one step further, do we even need individual persons as coaches, or can we build the capability in the organization and teach the organization to transform and continue to change by itself? So those are some of the questions that we will look into, and also how we can kind of make this work in the realities of large organizations. So before we do this, I said there will be a couple of definitions, not too many. First of all, we thought like, so maybe coaches are a community. And by the way, this is not just for coaches, right? You can replace coaches with Scrum Masters, with engineering coaches. You can replace it with enterprise architects, with project managers. Yes, they still exist, even in our world. Program management, portfolio management. So basically everything that has like, where we need special expertise and serve the organization in whatever way. So let's take a look at communities. It's a natural thing, right? We are a community here. So what is a community? It's a group of people coming together around a purpose or an interest or an expertise. And they basically self-organize many times, so that resonates. And they come together to learn and to develop to build knowledge, to improve, to get better, and they interact on a regular basis. So from that perspective, it's like check, check, check. So somehow this makes sense. So if we go one level deeper, and I apologize, that's a little bit small, I will just highlight a couple of points. One is communities are designed for evolution, right? So they naturally can and will change. So that makes sense. We run through a big change process and the transformation that changes, the needs of the organization change. So this would be somehow a fit. They foster an open dialogue between the members in the inside and the outside. You invite different levels of participation. So you could have like a core team and then maybe extended community and maybe some visitors that come and go, some travelers that show up and then move on. So this could be some sort of fit as well. And finally, there should be some way, you know, to see like what's coming out of this. So some value. This, by the way, is one of the biggest challenges that I found with communities. But on the other hand, so who of you is part of a community in your organization? So many of you. What is the value that you get? Just quick raising hands. 5 is top, 0 is no value. Just go like quick vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. So like you don't have ones and zeros, that means it's not mandatory that you participate, so you can opt in and out. That's a good thing. So what I found is, I'm not sure about you, Mike, with communities, they're a great construct, but they happen to fade out or they happen to lose energy. So when you look at teams, teams happen to get better, right? We have our mechanisms, we have our support systems. That is a potential issue with communities. So we talked about this. Another aspect is we can use them to develop standards, right? They could be a self-governing body. So we are doing this in one organization, one customer of ours, and I see some people here, some former and some current. They use guilds, for instance, and guilds have a self-governance mechanism built in this instance. So you could also take it one step further, basically, and say like, this is what we want to be, this is our standard, this is how we want to practice. So there are some elements, good and bad, but let's say initial verdict, is it a team or is it a community of practice, or what is it? Maybe a community of practice, but not sure yet. So let's look at the other options. And I probably have to speed up. A team. So I guess you all know what a team is, right? It's a group of people coming together, working together to fulfill a purpose and a goal. So I guess on this we can all agree. Now, when we look at agile teams, self-organized, empowered, interdisciplinary, reasonably small. So that works at Rewe when you say like we have 10 coaches and we keep them as they are. I think that reasonably small is almost on the edge because you are growing. But if you had like one coach per, let's say, 5 or 3 product teams, that gets large. Then maybe it's not one team anymore. Then we have to talk about splitting, and you don't want to split the coaching team, I can tell you. So basically, the problem is really, when you think about the coaching team as an agile team, is you want to design agile teams so that they are as much independent of each other as possible. Now, show me one agile team, a coach team that can do the work without somebody else in the organization. But that does not work by definition. So because you go somewhere, you work with people, you enable them, right? You have to be with them and work with them. So you have a very big dependency. If you have no dependency, it would be a perfect ivory tower, but this is not exactly what we're striving for. What about the competences? So yeah, you have lots of competences, but do you have all the competences in a coaching team to change an organization? What about engineering? Obviously, this is the other side of the coin. If you talk about IT and software development, what about HR? What about finance? What about compliance? So you could run into many ceilings and hurdles, and you probably need something that even goes beyond that. Can you eliminate problems by yourself? maybe some, yeah, but many are larger in a bigger context. When you look at organizations, you might need management, you might need others. So somewhat, but also here, maybe. So team, yeah, but then what about if we extend it? We make it a change team, right? We bring in others from finance, from HR. I think this speaks to what we heard in the beginning. So agility moves up and gets broader, right? We look at end-to-end. We want to work with the entire organization. We want to create value in all the places. We want to involve management. We want to involve maybe our supply chain. So this would be something that could work, right? It's a company sport, not a team sport anymore. Because everybody will be affected. And it goes beyond your place in the organization. So there's some stuff that works here, but still, you know, having everybody in one team, they could get quite large if you want to represent the entire organization. And lastly, I just want to bring in one notion because I'm otherwise running out of time. If you know, you can speak about sales and circles and all of this, but there's just one idea that I want to implant. So as a team, do you need one leader? I know some teams, they would say yes, especially coaching teams. To be honest, they say, yes, we need this one. We need Mike. And I could actually subscribe to that. But the point is, there are some examples where there's no leader. I'm not sure if you know Otto in Germany. They have a team of coaches and there's no formal leader in that team. I think it takes a certain level of maturity and you have to be along the journey for some time that you can consider this. But if you are there, then you know, something like a circle or a cell. Actually, you know, there would be a whole talk about circles in coaching teams. We have been there. We have done that. Splitting a coaching team into 3 circles would not recommend it. Although it can help you in the journey. So maybe if you embed this, but let's say this is more advanced, so it's not even a maybe, it's a little maybe. So the big question is that remains, what are we? Are we a team? Are we a community? Should we be a distributed capability? And like as a mental model, I know it's hard to distribute us as people in so many places. Or are we something different? Or are we a little bit of everything? And I think that's the key here. So if you think of the change that the company goes through, you look at large scale changes. So initially, almost always we find a centralized change team that can comprise maybe only of coaches or with Scrum Masters, maybe some other functions of the organization. But this is just like, say, an initial support mechanism. Over time, as the company matures, as the company learns to change, maybe the amplitude of change gets smaller, the frequency gets higher, it becomes second nature. You know, you become a learning and self-managing and self-changing organization. This becomes a company skill. So maybe over time we can think about you know, shrinking that team, sending people somewhere else. What we see for long-running transformations, coaches will apply for other positions. They will take sometimes leadership positions, maybe in delivery, maybe in other places, maybe in product. So you kind of start the next level of the journey where you basically build this up as an innate capability in the organization. So most transformations that I have seen are not there, but I think this will be the next stage where we go to. And finally, and this is basically what Mike then will pick up next is, and I think this is also the motto of this conference this time, so it's probably a good fit. It does not matter really if you design your organization in a cell structure, if you design it along tribes and guilds and chapters and whatnot, or if you create a product-centric organization. I will not mention less because we said we will not talk about less today. Or if you orient yourself around value stream, release trains, or bases and forums and crews, it does not matter. What everybody needs, you all need a place of belonging. And I think coaches very much, because they have a tough job to do. If you look at the coaching stances, it's not just what I mentioned before, also we are change agents. So we are not always welcome in what we do. So there's a level of need for protection and support and enablement. I feel we as coaches, we need a place to come home to. So this is a case for a coaching team. It's just a mental place. And, I mentioned belonging. I was just reminded today on the way here that you can belong, and we all belong to many different systems and teams at the same time. So you can be part of a centralized coaching team and still be part of a tribe or a product team or a stream or a value stream. The question is like, where do you belong more to? And this can also change over time. But there is always something about coming home, having a safe place, having a place to learn, to develop together, also to kind of develop in the same direction, stay coherent, make sure the organization is served very well, so you don't develop in all the different places. And that's the home base. And the home base, again, could be in one centralized place, as we always see, but you could also be distributed and maybe then create a virtual structure around this. And Mike, this is over to you. You will look into this, especially centralized versus distributed, and what it means for leadership.
Yeah. So, question, and we already got a little bit into this. Does it make sense to have such a team centrally anchored, or does it make sense that the coaches are in the line organization? So who of you has the coaches in the line organization? Okay. Who of you has the coaches in a centralized team? What the others doing, I'm not asking. This could take longer. Anyway, so basically it could also be a mixture of both, right? But there is like positive and negative things to have them centralized or not. Yeah, I will just go through some of them. The good thing that they are centralized is they're not in the sphere of influence of the line managers. So the line managers can't tell them, hey, you need to tell the team that they shouldn't go for testing because we need to be fast. Yeah, and I, as your line manager, tell you that you should do this. Yeah, this doesn't happen if the people are centralized. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't work. That's good. A negative aspect could be, where are the people anchored? Where is this team located? Is this team located as whatever it means in near to the management team? It's like, what are these coaches doing? They're only spying on us. Things like that, right? I've heard these things, so they're only spies because they're spies for management, because they are anchored in the management. And as Hannes already said, the boxes matter still in big organizations. So where's the box? Is the box near to management? Is the box somewhere else? That matters. And this also is how coaches are perceived. Even if people know nothing about what the team is doing, yeah, where they are matters. Yeah, because people look at the org chart and say like, oh, near management, bad. So something else that could be good, so you can use synergies. Basically, when people are distributed all across the organization, it's hard to do some things that affect the broader audience of teams, right? So for example, if we have an example, what we are doing currently, we are talking to teams about epic slicing and all that stuff, yeah? If you do this in bigger workshops where you can invite a lot of teams and a lot of product owners, then you can basically double or multiple your influence and your reach by just doing it once. And it's not like 50 people talking to 50 POs. It can be worse. They can tell them different things, right? So to have it centralized and like, hey, let's basically produce a singular message to everybody and get everybody involved. Yeah, this can also help to have some synergies between the teams and really access multiple teams at once. Yeah, the bad thing is, who pays for it? So who has experienced like, I can't use an agile coach because my project has no money for it? Who's heard that? There's people who heard that. There's also a thing like, so who's paying for it? I'm lucky that we are paid basically by the organization, and the projects don't care about it. They can just come and ask, hey, I need an agile coach. And they don't need to pay for it because it's like paid by the organization. That's fine. it's good. But if it's not the case and projects are tight on budget, what's the first thing they just toss out? Oh, Agile Coach. They don't produce code. We don't need them. Get them out of the project. Another positive thing, so common standards can be defined. So we talked about this. It makes sense that you have common standards and not people doing something in different ages of the organization. And it's easier to do this because the team can come together, define these standards, can agree on something that they want to move forward and then do it together. On the opposite, well, such a centralized team as a budgetary thing looks very huge on the bill, right? So if there's some people hidden somewhere in budgetary things in the organization, it's easier to do than it's like, oh, there is a big bunch of things we just spend on a lot of coaches that are centralized because it's like, it's visible, that's the whole thing, right? Can be a challenge. Could be easier to distribute them in the organization because like it doesn't look that bad in the budget. The positive thing is you can act like as a consulting unit in the organization, which means like you don't have the thing like, as it said on the top here, coaches are not in the sphere of influence of the line managers. So they can be called in and say like, hey, we have this and that problem. Can you help? And you can say like, okay, what can we do? And help people doing it and enable people doing it rather than, hey, you have a Scrum Master. The Scrum Master is doing all the meetings. And if the Scrum Master on holiday, nothing works. So when you come in and basically try to enable the teams and learn them how to do it themselves, it's better, it's longer lasting than implanting somebody who is doing all the work and the rest doesn't care, right? So you're basically something like, hey, we are not there forever. We can help you. We can go in as consultant. We can help you doing it, but you must do it yourself in the end. On the opposite, let's talk about these things like boxes, yeah? So I happen to be, it's called the product owner because we're a product organization, product owner for the Agile coaching team, which gives me a box in the organization, which doesn't make me a better coach than all of my folks. Yeah, but I have a box in the organization which helps in communicating to other folks in the company because I have a box. Yeah. If you would think about the distributed Scrum Masters in the organization, would they get access probably to high up management rounds? Maybe. But maybe not, yeah. If you own a box, that's easier. It's just saying because organizations and big organizations like the one that I am in think in these boxes and think in org charts. And having somebody who owns the box more or less helps. So it gives you some superpowers just by owning the box. You don't need to be better in some way, just own the box helps. Yeah, the other thing is like what's also good, you have an unbiased outside view. So you're not always there. You don't get sucked into everything that happens around you. Yeah, you can come in and say like, hey, I have an unbiased outside view. That's what happens, and that's what doesn't happen. Rather than having permanent baby care and run into things like, hey, I start managing Jira for the team, and the team expects that I manage Jira, but everybody could do it by themselves, and they should. Yeah, so it's not tool managing or not secretary. I'm pretty sure that most of you can name at least one or two of these stances of a Scrum Master that you don't want to see. And that's the thing. So if you have a permanent baby care in the team, there is a good reason or a good chance that this happens. It doesn't happen if you come from the outside and exactly tell people like, no, we will not manage your Jira. No, we will not clean up your backlog. We will show you how to do it. You need to do it yourself. On the bad side, also the environment for the team is significantly shaped by the manager in the box. So if I would go to IT board and say like, you're all crap, this probably wouldn't help. Yeah. So you also need to work inside the organization to help the team. This also makes a lot of sense and this is really important. Okay, so I have a second page. So what's good thing is like you can use the experience of all the members in the team and you have a lot of teams using, a lot of people in the team are using different methods and knowledge and things like that. And you can use the whole knowledge of the whole team. Whereas you have your own Scrum Master in the organization somewhere, and the team can only use the Scrum Master's knowledge that's there. Hard to do something else. Yeah. Something that might be good for the coaches, but could be a downside is you only need to live to a specific extent with the change that you bring to the teams because you're not in there. Yeah. But it's also a little bit a thing that the coaches need to be aware of. whatever change you implant, think of it, if you would be in the team, would it make sense to you, right? Yeah. If you have a centralized team, and this also is true if you would have a community, you get a better understanding of the organization. Because you get lots of insights from the different areas of the organization. You can really imagine and think about how the organization works on an organization level. You're basically beyond the team. You're beyond any framework, because that's the thing that we are currently talking today. You just try to understand how the organization works. That is normally written nowhere. Yeah. So there is no like, hey, there is this guy, and they always go golf together. So this is because their teams work together good. And there is this other guy they don't like, and this is why it's not working. So that's good. You have less danger of this operational blindness when you're basically in your box. Yeah. Bad thing is, successes as a centralized teams are difficult to measure. And basically, sometimes these teams are like perceived as less effective. If you have a superhero Scrum Master in the team and all the teams says, yes, we love our Scrum Master, but he does or she does all the shit that we don't want to do. And it's like, hey, we have a superhero in the team. He's so cool. Yeah. That doesn't happen if you don't do that. Yeah. So obviously, sometimes it's hard to measure this, how it works and how good it works. Yeah. Basically, if you have a centralized team, and my coaches know this extremely well, when you have a centralized coaching team, then this is basically the first point in time where you can work above the team level. Yeah, because if you're in the team and you don't own a box somewhere else, it's hard to move anything outside of your team scope. You can like file a ton of impediments somewhere, but if they don't get picked up, you're basically out of luck. Yeah. So as a centralized team, you have much more chance to work on this level above the teams, which is extremely important. Is in many cases the bigger level than you have in any of the teams. Yeah. The other thing is like, if you come from the outside view, then the best for the company might not be the best for the team. So the coach should provide some change or like plant some change that the coach knows it's good for the company, but this might not be good for the team. So you can run into this internal conflict and you need to figure out, what do I do as a coach, right? Yeah. And you can use your coaches per situation. You can have a strong man in the team who say like, yes, let's do it, come on. No, we don't want, no discussion, let's do it. Yeah. For people who like new thinking, who are a little bit more in other things. So you have the diversity of all the people you can use as a very, very good multiplicator in the company. Downside, as you see, like 75 product teams, 10 coaches, and the budget blob. Yeah. So there is often a lacking capacity. Yeah. Because there is this visibility and this big blob of budget, and say like, no, we don't want to spend more on that. Yeah. So this also means like you probably have less people, which means like you run into bottlenecks from there to there, and you need to prioritize. That's also an important thing. Prioritize what you're doing and where you do it. Yeah. Last but not least, and Hannes mentioned that, so it's good for the mental health because you have a home base you can come back to. You can tell others like, oh, this team is so shit. I can't stand this anymore. Yeah, and people understand you. So if you go to somewhere else, if you go to the boss of the team, like, this team is shit, with a what? This is the team we are in. Come on. So that's good. Yeah, so that you have basically a home base that where you have people that understand you. Yeah, and last but not least, also what Hannes already said, it could become an ivory tower if you don't take care that it doesn't. Yeah. Okay. So as we have a totally clear understanding what it is, we don't know yet, but what type of leadership does this need? This is basically what I experienced in the past and with the current team I have. So you need to be responsible for the guardrails, which means like you need to create the environment that people can work in. You need to show the value to management, obviously, because they pay for it, right? You need to stake out the pasture for the teams, like, hey, here the grass is green, munch on it, makes fun, yeah. But there is the electric fence. If you try to cross the electric fence, you get into trouble, yeah. Which means like you need to know where you can put your people and protect them from not going too far, right? Yeah, you need to be obviously the team ambassador. What is the team for? Is the team cool? You need to basically tell this everybody in the company. Yeah, you need to create transparency, going back to how to show the value. And you need to create an alignment, because people need to have this alignment and say like, hey, let's do this together. And also management should be aligned on what's the thing we're doing. Okay, so what about strategy? Yeah, you need to take care of governance. That's very easy. You need to ensure the framework for the coaches. Where are you? What's your framework as a coaching team? What can you do? You need to help to shape the corporate strategy, because if corporate strategy doesn't tell you anything about agility, it's like, interesting. You can use OKRs. This can show some value with the team. This is what we are currently doing. And you need to define the red thread with the team, because management needs to see some sort of a red thread, because it needs to make sense to them, right? And if they don't see a red thread, they're like, I don't understand what you're doing. Okay, so having said all that, and the title, if you remember, was something about leadership. What type of leadership do the people need? So very easy. People still need leadership, as everybody on the team need leadership. So go read talking about growth potentials, one-on-one feedback. You need to be the coach for the coaching team. We had that. Caveat is, can be tricky. Coach a team of people who know what coaching is. Yeah, you try to coach me, come on. Okay, and also bringing people down to earth. The other thing that's very important in my perspective is to mirror the things that happen from the outside. So feedback that people that you get as their manager, mirror them to provide them the big picture, and also to make better decisions. Yeah, you need to challenge the people about personal development. So not everyone is a superhero, even if they think they are. Yeah. So you need to challenge the people to be a better of themselves. Yeah, and you need to coach the management level. You can use your folks for this. It's very true and it's very good. Yeah, but in the end, you need to be the direct contact and responsible person for management. Otherwise, they try to put crazy things on your people. Yeah. So hey, can you help me do this or can you help me do that? It's like, hello, come on. Yeah. And you need to hold up a mirror to management. So hey, what you're doing here doesn't make sense. Yeah. So in the end, all about here, like empowerment, leadership, and so on, is true, even for a team of coaches. Okay, that was it. We are more or less on time. Any questions?
Okay, I'll just make a round.
You decide what the first question is. You're the microphone man.
There.
I have a question for Hannes. You said, yeah, so it's good to have leadership, as Mike also said, but you said you knew one team who was able to do it themselves. So I wanted to ask you, how did that work? Like, how did they give feedback each other, or how did it work?
So I have to say as a disclaimer, I have not have it over with time, or can we have some questions? Yeah. Okay. So I have not worked with this team directly, so everything I know from that team is second nature. It's also, I tried to contact them even for this talk, but they didn't respond to me. So they basically they have a clear, let's say, mechanism and governance in which they work, and yes, they support each other. So as we do with coaches, I mean, this is what we do in our coaching teams anyhow. So you know, we pair up. We teach each other. So they do all those things, except they don't have the head of coaches who kind of, you know, plows the way in the organization, but maybe this is not needed there anymore. But the inner workings of the coaching team are just as any other coaching team that I have seen. So it's basically strengthening each other, supporting, and then it's they are just better positioned in the larger organization. So it's not needed anymore.
Okay, if you go back to the slide before, I was wondering how intentional is it that you said we need leadership and not we need leaders? Because obviously leadership can be more than just a leader. Leadership can be a culture, leadership can be behaviors, leadership can be beliefs, right? So if we need, I mean, growth potential and a culture of growth and the empowerment of that can be a culture as much as it can be a person who takes ownership of that. Do you think we need a leader or leaders, or do you think theoretically you could develop leadership as a collective thing or something outside the structure, role, perception we have of it, the function and not the form?
So very good catch. Yes, you need leadership. Yeah. So, and yeah, we have at least one of my coaches is here. So, what I try to foster is that they take leadership and they take responsibility for things, right? So I'm not telling them what to do in any case. It's like, hey, this is your field. Yeah, there might be some bad areas here and there, just to give them some perspective. Yeah, but in the end, it's about like, hey, them also taking leadership for the areas. Yeah. So basically, we have a product organization with clusters. Yeah, clusters are consisting of a lot of product families and products. Yeah, and I have normally assigned 2 coaches per cluster, and what they prioritize in the cluster is up to them. I'm not telling them. It's good to know if somebody approaches, hey, what your coach is doing in the cluster? It's like, I don't know, it's a bad answer. Yeah. But yeah, so in the end, they are totally allowed freely to figure out what's the best thing. So leadership, yes. Leaders, everybody should be a leader in such a team because they know what this means. In other teams, they might not.
I have a question to Mike. Mike, is there how did the team evolve in the last month or since you started? Were there any big changes that you saw since you started till now?
There was a big change, you know, because you were part of it. So basically, when I started, half of the team was external, and this changed a lot when we internalized people. This for me, this made a huge difference because it's like people really working together and not people not working on somebody else's list and something like this. And in the end, so we also shifted our focus from, hey, we only support teams to we work more on the level above the teams. Yeah. Which in my perspective, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, also gave a much more visibility for the coaches in the company, and they are getting approached for things that you might have never thought of. Yeah, so we had like, hey, we want to do a reorganization of this cluster. Can you give feedback and help? Yeah, which is like, oh, nice question, thank you. Yeah, they could have just done it and say like, hey, this is it, live with it, come on. Yeah, so changing the thing like where are the coaches living, where are the coaches working with, and yes, good example. We also build a very successful community of practice within the cluster where David is working. Yeah. So we're also trying to create this community of practice inside the company to really spread out our things, yeah, so that we don't have a coach everywhere, so the teams are able to do things by themselves.
Okay. I think we're at the end of the time slot. Thank you both for your thoughts on Agile teams, on Agile coaching teams.
Yeah.
To finish the session, I also have a small present for you. Green heart.
Of course, it has to be green. Thank you very much.
Yeah. All right. Thanks
a lot.
Thanks a lot for having us.
Thanks a lot, folks.